You're listening to the Play Like a Girl podcast, episode number 13.
You play ball like a girl!
I'm Nikki B with Play Like a Girl, made just for female athletes.
I can be a girl in a man's game, a diamond in the dirt.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Play Like a Girl podcast. I'm your host, Nikki B. Here at Play Like a Girl, we aim to encourage more confidence in young women who play sports and give them the necessary tools and advice to have an amazing career in sports and beyond. If you are a young woman who plays sports and lives an active lifestyle, or you know one of these young women, I am so excited you are here. Each week, we will either bring you a guest in the sports world or have a roundtable discussion of the many taboo and important topics in the world of female sports. Are you with me? Let's change the game. All right, Flag listeners, today I'm joined by three women who work for our parent company, MaxPreps, and they're all former college softball and volleyball players, so I'm excited to hear their take on being a student athlete and how that translates into the working world after talking to the high school softball players in episode number 10. So ladies, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Okay, so let's get into introductions. Let's go around the table, introduce who you are, your name, what you do here at MaxPreps, and where did you go to school? Where did you go to college?
Okay, I'll start. My name is Kelsey Wagner, and I'm in the marketing department here at MaxPreps. And I went to school and played college softball at Western Kentucky University.
Awesome, cool.
I am Lindsay Ray. I went to UC Davis, also played college softball. I run product here at MaxPreps.
My name's Megan Nelson, was Megan Lothry back in my college days, played volleyball at Cal State Stanislaus, so if I stood up you would see I'm 6'1", and that was my path.
Awesome. And where are all you ladies from? So how did you what was your journey to getting here to MaxPreps? Did you grow up in this area, or were you from the areas that you went to school?
Well, now that MaxPreps is in El Dorado Hills, this is actually where I grew up. I went to Oak Ridge, so not too far down the road.
I grew up in Shingle Springs, where MaxPreps used to be, and went to Ponderosa High School. When I ended up here at MaxPreps, I kind of stumbled upon this job actually at a high school football game. Ran into Andy Beal, who is my boss now, and he's like, "What are you doing now that you're out of college?" And he's like, "Do you want to start working at MaxPreps?" And literally I showed up to work on Monday, and I've never left, and that was 15 years ago.
I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm from Yuba City High School, so kind of up in the cuts a little bit, but I had a family connection to MaxPreps, but like both of these women, first job out of college and loved it so much, haven't left.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that. I'm excited to get into that later then. And I love that you guys are all local girls. Like, yeah. I'm a local girl too. So, okay, so let's talk about high school. So some of you mentioned where you went to high school. I think maybe all of you did. But talk about, how did you get into your sport? When did that happen? How many sports did you play growing up? And like, when did you finally kind of narrow it down to the sport that you ended up going to school for?
So I only played softball. Well, baseball to start, t-ball. I was actually born in Oregon, so they didn't have softball in the small town that I grew up in. So it was baseball, and then moved here, and softball was the game. So I think I started at least at maybe probably 8 years old and never stopped. So softball was my only sport.
So I played a bunch of sports. I played growing up a lot of soccer. Then in high school, soccer and softball were in the same season, so you had to basically choose right before you got to high school. But I played basketball and softball all through high school, and actually I liked playing basketball better because it's more of a physical sport that you could box people out and throw your elbows around, where softball there's not really any contact. But I'm 5'10" and not 6'1", so not tall enough to play basketball in college. So kind of decided to go the softball route. But I played all 4 years of basketball and softball in high school.
Wow. So you were busy the whole year.
Yeah. It was always good, though, for softball season. I was always the most in shape of everybody, because I was in basketball season while they were just getting started, and I would get out to the first practice running laps around everybody else.
You didn't have any off season, so you were training the whole year. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm similar to Lindsay, but when I picked my final sport, it was for the opposite of Lindsay. So growing up, I played soccer nonstop. I actually did gymnastics for 2 years until I came back one summer, and again, 6'1". So that was done. In grade school, I ran track. I played softball. I really tried to do it all, but basketball was my sport growing up. I didn't even play volleyball at all until high school.
Wow.
So I tried out. I barely made the freshman team. My friends who also played basketball with me made varsity. I remember being like, wow, I suck at this, but it's fun. So I played basketball and volleyball my first 3 years. So by my senior year, I was so into volleyball and so much better at volleyball that I actually didn't play basketball my senior year. I specialized the final year. And I laugh because my reasoning, one, I loved volleyball. I wish I would have found it sooner. But I didn't like basketball. I didn't want to be boxing girls out. For being as tall as I am, was not very physical. I wasn't the best rebounder. I wasn't the best at any of these tall girl things. So it made more sense for me to stick to volleyball.
Yeah, total opposite of me.
Yep. I like that I would just do my hair and makeup. No one could touch me. The only thing I could do was just show my skills with volleyball, not with maybe I'll elbow you in the face.
That was totally me. So I played basketball in middle school, and my dad would always yell at me. He was like, "You're afraid of the ball. Like, don't be afraid of the ball." And I was kind of one of the taller girls at the time. I'm only 5'8" now, but at the time in middle school, I was like one of the taller girls, but I couldn't, I just didn't know how to be physical, and I was afraid of the ball. I wouldn't rebound. So it was the same thing for me. So luckily I found golf the summer before 8th grade, and then I ended up playing in high school. But yeah, I definitely was not one of the more physical girls, so luckily I didn't stick to basketball.
Yep.
But yeah, so how did you ladies pick your sport? What was it about your sport that really, struck a chord in you?
I think for me, I only played softball, and it was just that I could show the skills that I was pretty good at it, and I could go to college with playing the sport. So that's how I chose softball.
For you, it was a big family connection too, I think.
Yeah,
right?
my dad almost got drafted, so he was born and raised in baseball. So, and then my sister also played. So we both kind of chose the path of softball. So it's kind of like whatever sister did, I kind of did. So, yeah.
And I'm good at it, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. I love that. But it's something, we've talked about it on the podcast before, when it's something your family does, whether it's your dad or sibling, it's really fun and awesome to have that, because you're already bonded as a family, but to have that, other activity that really, bonds you guys together is really cool.
Well, when you're that involved in that sport, that's all you do.
Right.
I mean, you're practicing 2 to 3 times a week. You leave on a Friday or Saturday morning, you're up at 5 a.m. to drive to Stockton. So I mean, your whole week is dedicated to that. Right. So I was living with my dad basically in the car because he was one of my coaches too. So.
Yep, I remember those days for sure. What about you?
I'm not sure I have a pivotal moment of softball is going to be my sport. I think I just grew up. I have 2 younger brothers. We all played every sport. And I think my parents really encouraged playing every sport, so we always were in season. And I don't know how they did it with 3 kids, multiple games and practices happening. Somehow we made it to everything. And I think just because I wasn't going to be big enough to play my position in basketball in college, that's how I ended up, kind of deciding I was going to go the softball route. But I was good at it. I loved it. I loved playing sports. I'm a very competitive person. Sports has been a big part of my life, and just a big part of who I am has been competing. So I don't really know why softball is the sport that I ended up doing.
For me, I wouldn't say I have a pivotal moment where it's the light bulb went on, but a big part of it was the difference between basketball and volleyball. I grew into volleyball and really just fell in love with the sport, and finding it so late in my kind of childhood career, I was I couldn't get enough. So I started playing club sports. I hadn't played any of those off-season sports for anything else, so it was a year-round adventure for me. And then my sophomore year of high school, I had 2 amazing coaches. So that was a big difference. I had good coaches along the way, but 2 coaches specifically that followed our group of girls from our sophomore, junior, and senior years. We had the same age group. We didn't graduate a bunch of people. We were all together with these 2 coaches, and it was an amazing experience that even my high school friends talk about now. So I give a lot of credit to them for putting me down the path to play volleyball.
Definitely. Yeah, coaches make a huge difference for sure. I mean, they can make or break a team 100%, and really determine what that team, if the players end up staying in the sport or not. That's something we've talked about too on the podcast, how coaches really have an effect on the players more than maybe they even realize for sure. So what about position? So I want to know for softball, what position you guys played, because I know we talked about that with the girls on podcast 10.
So I was considered a utility player. I could play anywhere, but my 2 main positions were shortstop and second base. Okay. Yeah.
I was also a shortstop all growing up. I got to college, and they're like, we don't like this tall, kind of long-armed shortstop, so they put me at third base. And I played third base every single game, sophomore year to senior year through college. And it was really hard transition going from shortstop. You play really far away from the batter, and then at third base, you're like 15 feet away. And I remember just flinching all the time. Every time people would swing for like the first while until I got it down, like, okay, hit it at me. I can keep my eyes on this ball. So yeah, I ended up being a third baseman after being like a middle infielder all growing up.
And that's funny because I was actually opposite. I was third baseman and loved it. And then in my junior year of high school, our shortstop graduated, so they transitioned me to shortstop, and I wish I would have stayed at third base.
It's a long waiting game at shortstop. You gotta wait for the ball. Where third base, there's no time to decide.
The hot corner.
Yeah.
That's what they call it. It's the hot corner. You don't have time. You just have to react. Like that's you just have to react. So it was a big change, but kind of like you said, it was like a challenge, something new and different, and made it exciting. Made me work even harder in college because I wanted to start and I wanted to fill that void that our team needed. So I figured it out.
Yeah. What about for volleyball?
Middle hitter. So that was it.
That was it.
Volleyball has changed so recently. Anyone who's listening that's playing volleyball now, they're putting a lot of quicker people in the middle. So you're still tall. I mean, if you watch the NC2A championships, the shortest person's like 6'1".
Oh my gosh.
But back when I was playing, it was just the tallest girl goes right in the middle because that's meant for blocking. And I was a great hitter too, but I was the tall girl meant for blocking. Now you can be a little bit shorter, but you need to be very quick to block the middle, the outside, and the left side. So if I played again, I would likely be in another position strictly for height. It's a lot of volleyball foundation. You have to be good at what you do, but to figure out where to even start you, it's like, okay, short, back row, you, outside, you, middle. So I just went into the middle.
That's funny. Were you 6'1" in high school too? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, probably by freshman year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
You're the tallest girl on your team in high school?
Can't teach tall. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say you must
Yeah,
have
we
been.
had a couple 5'11s. A girl played basketball with pushing 6 foot, but on my team I was the tallest one.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get into, I want to know how you went from high school to college, because all you ladies played college, I think and played in college, and I think that's so cool. So what was your college recruiting experience like? Because I know it differs for everyone.
Yeah, so I had a few offers on the table. Just played travel ball, got recruited at a big showcase tournament in Colorado. But I had a lot of offers on the table, I think about 3. Went on 3 official visits, and then ended up choosing Western Kentucky based on the campus and the coach at the time. But that was kind of my process. It was pretty simple. Coaches came to me. I did send out like recruiting videos and my profile at tournaments. We had a college liaison in the stands, so they saw a college coach, they'd go up and give them our little notes about who we are and our GPAs and all that. But a lot of it was just by showcase tournaments, them seeing us all play, and then they approached us after, I think it was the junior year deadline or whenever they could talk to you at the time.
Yeah, similar to Kelsey, except for I chickened out for all the places that were far away. So growing up here, I had like offers and went on visits like in Texas and like further away, and I just kind of chickened out. And UC Davis was about an hour away from home, so my parents could still come to the games and I could still come home on the weekends. And I had 2 younger brothers that were still, home. And I think, I chickened out. I mean, it ended up being a great thing, but really it came down to, it was the closest school that was good academically that wanted me to play there. So that's how I chose UC Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to go far away, but also, again, in my sister's footsteps. She went and played softball in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And, it was the farther away you go from home, California and Texas and Florida are kind of the main hubs for softball players back, when I was being recruited. And so the farther away, you got more money for the softball scholarship.
Right.
So it's like, if I go farther away, I can save my parents some money. I won't have to get any loans, So that was kind of the thought process for me going far away from home.
Being a California softball player is like a hot commodity. Going to all those showcase tournaments that we played at, they're still doing it today, but it's like you play on a good team in California, you've got all the coaches from all across the country watching you play.
My experience was different from that. For volleyball, so in Yuba City, geographically, it's by itself, it's grown now, but back when we were playing, we weren't involved in the Sacramento scene, so there was just our school and one club team is the term for volleyball. So we didn't have a lot of experience in being recruited. We went to tournaments, but there wasn't really anyone getting heavily recruited at the time in our sport. So I really only had 2 offers, and one was for Chico and one was for Stanislaus. Chico came after I had signed, so I didn't even get a chance to consider it. I was so excited I even got one offer that I was like, where do I sign, basically? So that came about from the local community college who had a connection with Stanislaus, who knew they needed my position, and I really liked the campus. And again, at the time, all of us just wanted to play, so we all took basically what we could get. In hindsight, knowing more what I know now, you do, if you're from a smaller community, need to be a part of a larger community, get out there. Even if you're extremely talented, if you don't go get seen, it can be a challenge. The community up there is a lot different now. It's definitely more woven into Sacramento, but back in the day, it was just, we were this little group, and no one really knew about us, and we were really good, but we just weren't on the radar of anywhere. So I was really grateful to go to Stanislaus. I had a great experience, but I did not have the traditional years of playing and a few offers. It was kind of, I got one, I'll take it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we actually played for the same ASA team, the travel ball team. I mean, I'm older than her, but same team. It has a very big name in Sacramento. I mean, again, now the scene's changed a little bit. There's a lot more teams that are good, but back then, that was the best team in Sacramento. So if you were on that team, there was every showcase tournament, the stands were full of college coaches. So you just had to perform, which does put a little bit of pressure on you, but you had to do well when you knew those people were sitting there watching you, and you were going to have some offers.
Yeah, maybe I had the reverse of no pressure. We all played great because we're like, we don't even know if anyone's watching. We're just here for fun.
Right, really doing it with heart, you know, instead of putting the pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's amazing. I mean, all of you got, great educations and got to go to school and play sports while you're at school too. I mean, not a lot of people get that opportunity and that experience. But yeah, I know. I think it's important. What I realized with the high school softball girls is that playing on a travel ball team is just huge. And I think it's obviously the high school sports are important, but a lot of coaches are looking at, and like you said, there was only kind of one travel ball team in Sacramento, and now there's multiple. So yeah, definitely getting out there and getting your name out there is important. But okay, let's transfer into the actual college experience. How was that for each of you ladies? Yeah, just talk about what that experience was like.
Oh, where do I start? No, I mean, I am so grateful for being able to play college athletics. I think it's something that, obviously I'll cherish for the rest of my life, and hopefully pass on to my kids, and they get to have that experience. But my coach left after my freshman year. And that was really hard because the coach that recruited you, I chose this school because I loved the school, but I also chose because of the coach.
Right.
So she left after my freshman year to go to UK, and she's still there today and doing great. But the coach that came in just wasn't a good fit for my personality. So I had a little bit of a battle there, but wouldn't trade the teammate relationships that I got, my academics, getting a degree. I mean, it's hard work. It's a job.
Yes.
When you go to a D1 program, it's a job. It's not only going to school. It's you got to get up at 6 a.m. or earlier, go to weights or go to conditioning, then go to class. Then after class or in between class, go to a practice. And then for me, my classes were night classes. So after practice, I'm going back to class and then having to fit in some time for homework. So, I mean, it's definitely the grind, but it definitely makes you who you are. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
You miss out on a lot of things being a college athlete. My 21st birthday I spent at a tournament.
Oh, me too.
In Stanislaus, actually. I was in Stanislaus at a softball tournament.
We both celebrated our 21st birthday at the same one bar that is in Turlock.
Yeah.
You went to a bar?
My mom snuck me out of my room.
No
That's
way.
awesome. To go get me a drink on my 21st birthday, and they're like, we need to see your ID because I'm wearing my softball uniform with a bow in my hair. And they're like, there's no way she's 21. I'm like, today's my birthday. Back home at school, everyone was having a raging party and texting me about this great party that they were at, and I was like, thanks guys, it's my birthday and I'm at a tournament. So you miss out on things. I think some of the like sports stuff aside, some of the stuff I did love about college is I don't like mornings, and even if I had to get up at 6 a.m. for weights, I can make my classes not start till 10. So I could do weights, come back home, sleep for a couple more hours, go to class at 10. We did have night classes, which was a big change from growing up in high school, like having classes from 7 to 9 at night. It's so crazy, but that's a thing in college. I became the best napper ever. If you gave me like 30 minutes of free time, like
everybody becomes like you get napping down.
I was like, I could like jump into my bed and be asleep and back up for practice or the next event like so quickly. But yeah, just tons of great memories. Some of my best friends I still have today are my college softball teammates, which were then my roommates. They were in my wedding. I mean, just best friends, best memories. But yeah, a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I love that you brought up that napping.
That's
because it's so true. And I think I just honestly had an epiphany because I'm like, why am I such a good napper? And it's probably because of college. You had to learn how to nap in between classes or weights or whatever it may be.
Snuck it in.
Yeah, you had to sneak it in because
it's like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
let's go.
Because you're literally on from like 5 a.m. to probably midnight. So like you only get 5 hours of sleep, 6 hours of sleep if you're lucky every night. So you got to fit in those naps, even if it's a 30-minute power nap. For sure.
My experience was so similar. I mean, I think college is amazing for anyone. I remember those two great coaches I had in high school telling us in high school, they're like, just wait until college. The relationships you make there are the ones you'll have forever. And we're like, come on, we're best friends. I'm going to love all these people forever. And I do a few, but most have now fallen away. And he was so right that the college relationships now, a decade later, I just said how old I was, dang it, are the ones that are really sticking. And for volleyball being a fall sport, we came in for double days early. So when college courses started, call it September 1st, I already had an instant group of friends. So I was really lucky that I knew a ton of people already, and I knew the seniors, the juniors. So it wasn't just a bunch of freshmen. I came in with a huge community of people. Everything they said about napping was funny. Just going on all day is really tough. For me, I was pretty dedicated to my studies in high school, and I was extremely dedicated in college, but I also learned how to relax a little bit and have fun. So a lot of high school felt like an audition or an interview for college. It was all about the destination, but college for me was the journey. I met my husband there. I got to play sports all the time. I made a bunch of good friends. I made some mistakes, things that I hadn't done in high school because I was all about just getting there. So I wouldn't trade any of those kind of highs and lows in college for anything.
Definitely.
And one thing I didn't really touch on was like moving away from home.
Being on your own.
Yeah, so it was like I think my mom took me to school and got me moved into my dorm, and then was like, all right, see ya, Mom. And I remember like going like, don't get homesick, don't get homesick. And I surprisingly didn't until like a month in. Because like the first, you're like, I'm alone, I have my own room, I can go do whatever I want at any time.
Yeah, and it's exciting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But then it was like, oh, Mom's not here to do my laundry. Oh, Mom can't make me some
dinner.
Food. Yeah,
food.
And then it's like, oh, and then you just start to really do miss home. But again, having sports made that transition so much easier because you are so busy. And so it was just like, well, yeah, I can call home, and I think at the time we didn't have FaceTime, and so it was like Skype, and it was like it was in and out because the internet was so spotty in the dorms. So yeah, it was a lot of just pick up the phone and just check in, but and then for me, I had a boyfriend back at home, so that was the hardest part. He's still my life. He's my husband now. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
But that made it really hard. Yeah. But he also played college sports, so we both had our own task at hand, so it made it easier.
Okay, so for you, because you went a lot further from home than the three of us did, what is your best advice for girls who do go far away from home? Because like you said, I know it's like getting on, video calls, now FaceTime, which we didn't have, but like what else is there like that they can do to kind of like just ease themselves and like, obviously you're always going to miss home, but just make it a little easier.
I mean, definitely taking things from like your current room with you to set up in your dorm to make it feel like you still are at home. I definitely did that. And then, obviously just go out and do things. Don't just sit in your dorm and think about how much you miss home. Go out to just even like the common area and just see if you can meet new people. For obviously playing sports, you have instant friends. So just hang out with your teammates, go to the movie, just make fill your time so that you're not missing home makes it a lot easier. And then obviously once season gets into mode and you're just it's go,
Right.
then you don't have time. So
yeah, I think building those relationships is very key to just feeling at home,
Yeah.
you know, because when you have those relationships, whether it's your teammates or other people that you've met, other like college roommates or whatever it may be, I think that definitely makes, you know, gives a little piece of home because you
Yeah.
have a, you know, like really loving relationship. Yeah.
And you guys are all in the same spot, so everybody is away from home. So lean on each other,
yeah.
you know, to fill that void of home.
And there were some local girls that were on our team, so it was like, can we go to your mom and dad's house this weekend for, you know, so it was like you had that family feel because you got to like hang out with their parents or something. So we did that quite a bit.
Oh, that's huge. I would say if you guys have that, so that was my family. So my parents were like the total, you know, they were everyone's parents because a lot of the girls, there were some from the Sacramento area, but half the team wasn't. And there was even some girls from other countries. So especially for them, like really, you know, my parents inviting everyone to the house on Friday night for dinner or whatever, just like having some set of parents there just really made them feel at home. So yeah, if, you know, that's your family, invite them in. Or if it's, if you know another girl who is local, definitely be like, can I come over?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what about, I want to talk about skills. So the skills you learn as a student athlete, because I know a lot of the time what people talk about is it's student before athlete, and I think that's something you really have to learn, and I think that translates into the working world. So what are some skills that you ladies feel like really help mold you as a person and as a employee today?
I think prioritization is like key. When we kind of already touched on that, there's a lot of stuff going on. You maybe aren't going to be the straight A student, but that's okay. Like, you don't have to be the straight A student. You have to get good enough grades to keep playing. And I think, I mean, at least for me, my coach did a really good job, like knowing that all of us as freshmen are coming in and we're on our own. We don't have our parents telling us what to do. We had like study hall we had to show up for just to make sure we were getting our work done. And as long as you kept getting good grades, you didn't end up back in study hall. But freshman year, like, you were there with someone watching you do your work.
It was like at least 6 to 8 hours a week
Of study hall. You had to check in. We had to like sign in with this book, sit at the same table so someone could make sure we were doing our work. So they didn't lose freshmen that were just like, we're on our own, we don't do work. But yeah, it's just like kind of letting go. You don't have to get straight A's.
Yeah, I definitely got my first C in college, and I was like, whoa, okay, I need to actually put time into this. I can't, not that high school was coasting through, but college really is very challenging. There's going to be easier courses and harder courses, but a lot of those hard courses are hard. So you can't just skate by. You have to dedicate time to do it. So time management, prioritization, and then thinking beyond sports also becomes something you start to do after your freshman and sophomore year. If you're going to go to grad school, you need to maintain good grades. If you want to get a certain type of job, you need to be thinking about that. It has terms of your coursework and your classes. So you can't just skate by and only do well in your PE classes and not know how to do your business classes, and then you graduate and you really don't have any skills. So I think as time went on, it was like, well, volleyball, I only have 2 more seasons. Like, I need to start thinking, what's next? So that's picking now my concentration and thinking bigger, when volleyball has been my life the whole time until then. So college starts to open up like that what's next part of your life.
Yeah, I think I changed my major probably like 4 different times through
Really?
college. Yeah, because I just didn't really know what I was going to
Right.
do next.
You were a softball player.
That was what I was. I was
Right.
a softball player, and it's like, shoot, no, college is ending. What am I going to do? And I kept changing my major. Like, I was biology when I started at Davis. I thought I was going to be a doctor, and then I decided those 7 to 9 labs, like, all the time.
Or the 7 to
were
9 years
horrible.
of school after
Yeah.
school.
Were horrible. Yeah, so kind of just like moving around helped me kind of see what I thought I wanted to do with the majors. Another thing too, I mean, this goes back to the softball. Like, I am a super competitive person. They know that about me. But I mean, a lot of that is because of the athlete that I was, and I think that still does translate into business now. Like, I don't want to lose to any other company. I don't want to be second best to anybody else. I don't want to put out like crappy or like subpar product on our website. Like, I have a very high standard of like what is good, and everyone knows that about me. Like, we're trying to make the best thing possible, and I think that comes from just like deep down in my soul, I'm so competitive and I hate losing.
Yeah, I think I want to jump back to the majors real quick, but yeah, I think that's a good point about being competitive. I feel like in a work environment in an office, you can always tell who was a college athlete and who wasn't. There's just a different drive about them and a different work ethic. But we'll talk about that later. But I want to talk about you switching your majors, because I think that's a really important topic to talk about, because I think as like 18-year-olds, we're supposed to know what we want to do in life. And that, I think, is just so difficult. At 18, 19, 20 years old, it's really hard to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I think one thing is for our listeners to know that it's okay to change. And whatever you get your major, whatever you graduate in, that doesn't mean that you have to do that for the rest of your life, because as a person, you grow and change over the years. So I want to know what majors you changed in college.
Yeah, well, I was biology, because growing up, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Like, that was my goal. And like I said, it just got to college and was like, I can't hang with this 10 years of college thing. So did that for a little bit, and then I switched to math. I was a math major, because like that's why my brain works. I'm such a math person, and I was doing that for a while, and then I was like, okay, what am I actually going to do if I'm a math major? Like, am I going to like teach math? Because I don't want to do that either. So then it was like kind of floating for a while, and we've joked about this before. Pretty much half of the athletes at UC Davis were communications majors, because that was kind of like the easiest one to do. You didn't have to write a lot of essays. It was a lot of multiple choice tests. So I kind of was thinking like, I'm just going to go that route. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that. So I ended up graduating with managerial economics and communications major, which is the closest thing that Davis had to like a business degree, but it was a lot more focused on like econ, which was kind of like my math skills. But still, when I settled on that, and that's what I finished doing, I still graduated and was like, what the heck am I going to do now? Like, I didn't feel like I was really prepared for like what my passion was. I literally stumbled on this job and I haven't left. I think I got pretty lucky where I ended up. But I didn't have a really great plan. Where my brother behind me, I think my parents saw that with me and are like, we need to help kind of put him in a right direction. He graduated with engineering degree, and he basically got signing bonuses, like was being, offered from multiple companies to come work for him, which I'm like, why didn't I do that? Because like it's kind of math. I just didn't really know. So again, it is okay to totally switch around, and taking a few classes here and there kind of gets you a little bit of a taste of what that major is. So
yeah, I think it's definitely okay to switch around, and like maybe choosing some electives that are like just something you're kind of interested in, and really kind of exploring it, because you may find, like you said, like you thought maybe you wanted to do biology and then math, and you're like, nope, I want to do something totally different. And that was me too. Like, I was a communications with emphasis in public relations major, and then like my senior year, I realized I wanted to do broadcast journalism. Unfortunately, Sacramento State didn't really have that sort of a program. I could do like some sort of journalism program, but I was already too far deep into my classes. I was like, you know what, it's too late now. But I think it's totally okay to change, and it's gonna change. You grow as a person, and you're not gonna like want to do the same thing you wanted to do when you were 7 years old.
And a lot of your degree, unless you're doing a vocation like nursing or doctors, when you get your job, they just want to see that you graduated. You're educated. If it's your first job, you don't necessarily have to get the right degree for that job. So very quickly, it doesn't matter so much what the degree is in, especially if it's a business communications, managerial, more practical degree. A lot of it is just showing that you can finish your 4 years, you're dedicated, you're educated, and we'll take a chance on you.
Yeah, what about you ladies? Was it kind of, did you know like what you wanted to do your whole life, or did you change in college? What was it like for you?
Yeah, I had no idea. Again, followed in my sister's footsteps, went into the business school. She did a focus on marketing, I just did business management. But you had to declare a major going in as a freshman. Where like I know some schools you don't have to declare till like your junior year, which I think is smart, because it's like do your electives, do your general classes, and that way maybe you have a little bit more time to decide. But yeah, I had to declare right away, and I had no idea. But I was like, business management, it's general, I'll be able to take it wherever. So that's kind of how I chose my major.
Yeah, I totally same. Declared as a freshman, I picked business because it was practical, and I knew I could do anything after school with business. If I had to say what I wanted to do would be, and this is going to sound so cheesy, but work for a really cool sports company. And that just sounds so hokey that I'm here, but I wanted
really what you wanted to do?
Yeah, just work for a cool company and have it hopefully be in sports. So I've applied for like the AVP down in SoCal. I'm like, okay, it's just a cool company doing sports stuff. And that's why I'm like, this sounds so cheesy, but if I had a vision of what I thought I would do after college, that is what it would be. My actual minor was human resource management, strictly because I had a professor that did the whole course in Jeopardy style, and that was so fun. So they found that out yesterday. I was like, yeah, no, never had plans to be an HR manager.
Wow.
Don't really retain a lot of that, but I had a great time doing a whole class finals, pop quizzes. It was Jeopardy. So
Wait, that's fun.
Really fun. Yeah, I wonder if he's still teaching at Stanislaus. I'd recommend his courses because you're going to have a great time.
Yeah. I love that, though, that you, like, knew you wanted to work for just a cool, like, sports company or a cool company that does something related to sports. And I think that's important, like, for girls now to kind of, like, write down. Don't be afraid to, and, you know, because you kind of, like, manifested what you're doing now in a way.
Put it out in the universe and it comes back to you.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
I mean, there's all those minor league baseball teams and professional sports teams and sports marketing companies, but again, I couldn't see too far past being a volleyball player. So it was like, well, if I can't play sports, let me at least talk about sports, be around sports, sports adjacent, and luckily it worked out.
Yeah, no, and I think to that point, like, no dream is too big. You know, if there's something you want to do, like, put it out there in the universe and, like, go after it. Do whatever you have to do to go get it, because it can happen. There's no reason it can't. Let's talk about, you just kind of mentioned you identified yourself as a volleyball player, and then it was kind of like you wanted to stay in sports maybe because of volleyball. So I know a lot of athletes, especially even myself, like, kind of face an identity crisis after you graduate, whether it's like you stop playing after high school or you stop playing after college. But did any of you face that when you graduated?
I wouldn't say I had an identity crisis. I would still say I'm a volleyball player, which is a joke. But in my mind, I can still get out there. But after college, I more struggled with not having a group of instant friends or an instant community. So you go through your whole school life and you have teammates, and then you get put into the real world, and now you don't know anyone. So while you're still going, and I had friendly connections, I didn't have a group of 12 to 15 people that I could go over to their dorm or apartment and just hang out. It was, you know, I moved from where I was 2 hours back here, so I didn't have any connections, and it took me a while to build that back up, whereas every other stage of life, I was given a set of connections right away.
You weren't in a team anymore.
Yeah. So that would be the struggle that I faced, is just kind of making my own team of friends and coworkers over time, which I have. But in the beginning, it was a struggle.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because a lot of times, like, when you graduate college, you really don't go back to your hometown. I mean, sometimes you do, but other times you get a job in maybe a different city or a different state. So it definitely is like starting fresh again. And that's kind of,
that was my experience. You know, I was from an hour north of here, which all doesn't sound that far, but I didn't have any connections. So I went to Stanislaus, where I didn't know anyone, made a great group of friends, and then I ended up moving to Sacramento, where I didn't know anyone. So there was a few different journeys there, but now I have connections in all three places, so it worked out. But I would definitely be honest with that struggle for me personally to move away. If I had stayed in Turlock, I would have had friends there and connections to jobs. But if I could go back to the school thing, definitely consider the location of your school for your business side too. If you're going to have a lot of connections after college, if you are planning on moving away, you might not have those instant job offers because you don't have that community if you move. So.
Yeah, I think I did a little bit struggle with identity. I mean, not maybe identity, but it's like, what's next?
Right.
I can still, to this day, remember my very last college softball game. We won the national championship. We were at a pizza place with the whole team, coaches celebrating. And I remember saying, like, what's next? Like, what do I do now? I mean, I still had a little bit of college left, but it was like, that was my whole life I've been working towards, and that was my very last game that I just played. Like, oh my gosh, like, what's next? I can clearly remember, like, feeling that, like, heavy, like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? I mean, it all worked out okay, but I definitely had that feeling of, what am I going to do with myself?
Yeah, it's scary. And I think it happens kind of like senior year, you're kind of halfway through, and all of a sudden you realize, like, oh crap, what's next? Like, you know, because it's all this build up. High school is all this build up to get into college, and then in college you just want to like get through. You're just like chugging along, making sure you get all your schoolwork done, making sure you do as well as you can in your games, and then you finally, I think, get halfway through senior year and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm graduating in a couple months. Yeah, what next? I need to start looking for jobs. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a scary time for sure.
We were like at the highest high you could possibly
Yes.
be as an athlete, and it was like that night, just kind of like, oh, this is all
Slowly
Yeah.
sink
slowly
down.
ending.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
Definitely.
I definitely went through the same. For us, every year we made it to conference tournament, and then my senior year, we just had to go to one school and win. I think we had to win one out of the 2 games. We lost both, and we got run ruled. So we didn't make it to the tournament my senior year. So it was like, you know, going in like, oh, we got this. I got more games, and then it was like, oh, my season just abruptly ended. Like my career's over. So definitely was kind of like, what next? And then for me, it was like, oh, I had to like pack up my stuff and move home. And, you know, because I was not planning on staying in Bowling Green, which is about an hour north of Nashville, which a lot of people do stay in that area because Nashville is so close, and Nashville is a great town. And but no, for me it was, okay, I got to go back and pack my stuff up and get on a plane and move home. So that was, and then it was like, what happens when I get home? I moved back in with mom and dad. You know, it all kind of settles back in with you, like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be my reality. And then it was like, I got to find a job. And so yeah, that was
So
definitely
funny for both you guys. We didn't come anywhere close to any type of playoffs, so I didn't have that high. It was more like, this is so fun, and now it's over. But it was just that same level.
Yeah, that was definitely hard. It was like, because you're like, oh, we got another tournament.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we don't. We're done. You know, 4 years of hard work and everything just ended within a couple hours. So.
So let's talk about the what was next part. I want to know from you ladies, like, what happened when you graduated, and then what was your journey to where you are today?
So yeah, I moved home and immediately got into coaching. So I coached the travel ball team that my dad was a part of. So I was traveling, coaching, and doing that. And then MaxPreps job, another guy that works here still, he was another assistant coach, and he's like, hey, we have this job opening, you should apply. And so funny is Megan and I both applied for the same job.
No
and
way.
This is another resilience, was what sport teaches you. She ended up getting the job. And I did not. And so about a week later, I got a call, I don't know if it was from you or Janessa at the time, and was like, hey, we actually have a part-time position. So that's kind of how I ended up where I was. But it was probably a month or 2 after graduating. I was coaching, kind of was like, well, I guess there's a job at this sports company. That's cool, you know, and then didn't get it and was bummed about it. But then another door opened for me to get it, you know, get my foot in the door. So, yeah. It was pretty quick for me to find my next step, and then that's, I mean, almost 8 years later, still here, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think after the national tournament, we came back, and I had a couple weeks of school left. There was like a big career fair at school. And I remember, like, my mom had met me, and we went and bought, like, a business suit kind of thing, you know, like pants and a jacket. And I'm, like, this college girl that's never put on, like, a business suit. But you needed to, like, look professional at this career fair and walk around and hand out your resume, which luckily I had taken a class of, like, working on your resume. So I had, you know, something put together. But I remember being so nervous and feeling so awkward in this awkward outfit, walking around, handing out your resume, and it was all very weird. But I think if any advice I would give, it's like every kid that's in there, and I say kid, you're college age, maybe not kid, but they're all feeling the same. So it's like, it's okay to feel nervous and awkward and not super confident in yourself because you don't know what you're doing, but it's okay. Everyone's in the same boat. And these people are sitting on the other side of this table, like, they know. You're all just, you know, you're all in the same boat, so it's okay to feel awkward and nervous. So I, you know, walk around, talk to some people, pass it out. And so then I started kind of having some phone conversations and some interviews, and kind of stuff started happening, but nothing really seemed that exciting. A lot of it was like banking or financial institutions or just things that I was like not really like digging. I was going to Europe with one of my best girlfriends that I played college softball with for 6 weeks. So it was kind of like I can't really do anything until after that trip anyways. So that was kind of the summer. And then, like I said, I was at a high school football game because my brother played, and ran into Andy Beal passing out MaxPreps programs to fans.
No way.
And basically said, you want to come to work? And I showed up thinking it was a temporary like job, just they needed some help, which turned into forever. But it was like, this is what felt right. Kind of like, I didn't know I wanted to work at a sports company. I didn't even know that MaxPreps, was a thing really. But it felt right. It was way better than the other opportunities that I was thinking about from that career fair. But like getting out into that career fair was like step one, I remember. And then, like you said, put it in the universe, and like things kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Being in the city I was located in Turlock, I knew I didn't want to stay there. So I finished volleyball in the fall and had all of the spring to look for jobs. So it was a challenge for me because I was looking for jobs where I didn't live. And I was applying to jobs in Southern California. I drove down to LA in a day and back just for one interview, which was crazy. But another thing, just timing-wise, I graduated in 2009, which was the lowest low of the job downturn. So there also was a real struggle there. And I was a little disillusioned wanting to work for someplace cool. So yes, there was bank jobs. There was lots in Turlock I could have done, but I didn't want to stay there, and I didn't want to go work at these other places. In hindsight, I probably should have. Everything worked out great, but I was really lucky to have a connection to MaxPreps. I took a data entry job just punching in numbers to have the opportunity to be there. And for the first year, I didn't really find my footing. I was doing a lot of random things for MaxPreps, not a full-time job. It was just as a contractor until the opportunity that I was able to apply for a full-time position, doing what I liked, which is we all get to have fun, like marketing, support, talking to people, being outgoing. So I hit my stride at that point. But I mean, for 6 months, I looked for jobs and I didn't find any, and I didn't have really a support system to do it because I didn't want to stay there. So your career counseling office is great if you want to work in that network, but they didn't really have a wide one cast outside of the area. So I struggled, but it all worked out, and it was just, having faith in myself. And the people that I knew, my family was really helpful. So just to ride kind of out the, like, I'm not sure what's really happening. This isn't ideal. And then it turned up, just by chugging along. So I guess if I tie that to my sports experience, we didn't win championships. We were kind of not the best team in our competitive league, but you still go out there every day and try your best, and it works out. So for me, it took about a year, but it all worked out in the end.
I love that though, and I think that's an important lesson. Like, don't just hop into something just because. Like, it's okay to kind of wait around for something that you really love or that you think you're going to love. Like for the both of you, like you kind of knew that those jobs maybe in Turlock or those like finance business jobs were just not the right fit. And so it's okay to pass along those things because, if you wait for the right one, it'll come around. If you keep grinding, keep fighting, keep searching, because it's way better, I think, to wait for the right opportunity and for something that you're going to love and be passionate about versus just hopping into something just because you think you need to get
and the other thing about those jobs in that interview, that's all practice. So like every one of those conversations I had on the phone or interviews that I went to, it was all just like practice, making me better for the next one that maybe was the right one. The other thing I did too when I came back, moving back home and with my parents, which is a weird thing when you've been on your own and now you have rules again. I worked at a temp agency. There was like a local temp agency because I was going to Europe for 6 weeks, and so I had these couple months, and I got a couple random like kind of office job, like fill in for someone answering the phone, or I did this thing at model homes where I like did these surveys at model homes. So it was like I kind of got myself out there just a little bit to make a little bit of cash and kind of got to try a bunch of different little things. So that's kind of just good advice that there are temp agencies where you can get like short-term work just to
while you're figuring it out.
While you're figuring it out, just to, and you get to try out stuff.
That's so important. I've had so many little like odds and ends jobs to like get to where I am today because I knew that like you said, I wanted to make sure that whatever I was really getting into was the right fit and like going after my dreams. So I worked some like random little office jobs or random part-time jobs just to make ends meet because you got to do what you got to do. But also taking interviews is huge, and networking. I know like I've applied for so many jobs and I'll go in and take the interview because I know even if it doesn't work out, it's going to be great practice for me. So that's a really great lesson too. Okay, so any final thoughts that you ladies have for our listeners, whether it's advice in high school, college, getting a job, anything at all?
I would say enjoy those college moments. Sometimes you're so caught up in like having to do all of this stuff, but it goes by in a blink of an eye, and you're gonna look back and be like, dang, that was the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. Like, a lot of people get into college and are so worried about their job that they don't like soak it in and enjoy it. And those really will be the very best times of your lives. Like, you have no responsibilities, you have no one to take care of, you don't really have bills to pay. Like, soak it in and enjoy it and have just the very best time.
Yeah, same. It's just truly special, and it'll never be like that ever again. Why rush anything? You know, if anything, take a 5th year. You know, stay there.
Yes, definitely.
And then with your sport, so Kelsey said this, but you know, I got into coaching too after. I played adult leagues after, so you will never be too far away from your sport if you don't want to be. So you might not be at the highest peak of your game, but you can be around your sport, and that's enough for me. You know, 10 years later.
Yep.
I don't have any.
Nothing at all? Yeah.
We nailed it.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
said everything I was going to say.
I think that's such an important lesson, and to those points, kind of like just don't sweat the small things, live in the moment. And I think one thing is, no, you can sleep later on in life. I mean, I think enjoy those moments every second that you can. Napping's super important because you're not really going to be able to get much sleep every night. But yeah, I love that. I think it's so true. And college happens really quickly, so you just have to soak in every moment. I mean, it's a very cool 4 to 5 years in between high school and adulthood. It's like you're an adult, but you also don't have all the responsibilities of being an adult. So it's really enjoy those moments because, it's just fun, and you're never going to be able to get it back. So.
Well, it makes you who you are.
Yes.
Just like all the experiences you go through with the athletics, it definitely makes you who you are. You know, to take it throughout the rest of your life.
Yeah, 100%. And like you even mentioned earlier, like you'll make mistakes, you know, and you'll have amazing accomplishments, but you'll also make mistakes, and I think just own it and live through it, work through it, and because it makes you who you are. And that's what's awesome about college.
One last thing about like the mistakes things, like one of my like mottos right now is fail fast. Like try lots of things, but fail quickly. So don't be afraid to try something. And if it doesn't work out, then just decide that didn't work out, and don't just keep doing it forever. So it's like, don't limit yourself because you think you might fail. Try it, and if it doesn't work out, then undo it and try something else. So
I love that. That's awesome. Okay, well, final question, my favorite question. What does playing like a girl mean to you?
It's just it's just who you are. You know, it's girl or boy aside, it's the sport and the competitive. It's building that foundation for your life. For me, was playing like a girl was just dedicated, determined, and foundational for me. It really, everything in my life came from this. So I couldn't imagine what my life would be like if I didn't have sports and didn't have that experience throughout my whole growing up.
Yeah, I don't know if this has a rating, this podcast, and I shouldn't say this, but when you say that statement to me, what I think is like being a badass.
I love that.
That's how I would answer that question.
Love that.
Yeah, for me, it would be like, don't be scared. You know, just be competitive, put yourself out there, and just work your ass off. Is kind of that's what I think. I mean, I just always remembered getting in the batter's box and being like, pitcher, I own you. Like, I've got this. Just being a badass and just going out there and just taking, you know, being a female and being able to play sports and, you know, taking that with pride.
Love that. Oh, such great answers. All right, well, thank you ladies so much for being here today.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
This was fun. Thanks.
All right, everyone, make sure to share this episode with a friend who you think will enjoy this podcast. I'd love to hear your feedback and thoughts on this episode, so head to iTunes to leave a review. You can also send any questions or topics you'd like us to cover by sending us a DM on Instagram at PlayLikeAGirlMP. We want to know what you want to hear. Before you go, screenshot this episode and tag us at PlayLikeAGirlMP so we know you're listening alongside us. Thank you so much for listening to episode 13 of Play Like a Girl. We hope you come back for more. Once again, I'm Nikki B, and remember to never stop playing like a girl.
You play ball like a girl!